So this is the week 7 lab for human genetics. Okay? And so as always, it seems like as always, read the lab kit, the manual, all that stuff, complete the document. Any graphs or anything need to be in the document. Oh, ignore that part. Click on the assignments tab. Everything's due on Monday now. For a while it used to be different. Faculty, materials, just ignore that. You won't see it. Student, you'll get the document that you fill in. You'll have a rubric in the playlist. Let's go look at that rubric now. Okay, so for week 7, human genetics, there's going to be observations that you guys are going to share to make sure you get enough people. It's actually a lot less than the week 1 one was. And then exercise 1 and 2, and then you'll have your sentences and references in this one, because exercise 2 is going to have like a paper, so you'll have to have those. Okay, let me pause this and open up the human genetics. So here's my title page. You'll create it. You'll have your title, your name, the course number, the date. My name is optional. Here we go. So observations, it gives you one sample one for free. You'll come up with 14 more. If you can't, you'll use the other students to help you fill that in so you get it enough. Then you'll put how many for each ones that you have. I expect this to be a number over here for full credit, right? So then the patterns of human inheritance traits. What observations can be made about the collected data, whatever you see. Is there like some trend? Does it seem like there's more of some kind? Are any two people exactly the same? If so, how closely related they are? If you have nobody, then like when would you expect people to be more similar? You know. Or you might say like I have two people that are really close except for one trait. They're related, whatever. Is your hypothesis supported? What statistical tool might help you make this decision? Any statistics that you learned this week? Think about the other lab. In the totals that you recorded in table 1, did you find the number of dominant phenotypes? So phenotypes is what it looks like, remember, are equal or less than the recessive types. Equal, greater, equal, or less, right? Can you explain what possible genotypes suggest this pattern? So what are the genotypes? What's the actual things? You can see the phenotypes. Genotypes are like the big allele, little allele, the two alleles, right? Would you expect this outcome? Why? Based on that part. How would changing the level of map traits affect the chart? So it's the chart where you're mapping stuff, right? So like, is it going to look different? What does it mean? Discuss several other traits, at least 3, that humans have that are governed by genetics, right? So 3 other traits. Like, how are they governed by genetics? You might say, like, the 3 traits are blah, 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 where blah is dominant and blah is recessive, right? Would your data vary if you went to another part of the world, like China, right? So you're probably doing this on American people, have interbred like Americans, the general look of American. Doesn't this remind you of the 100 Years of History videos of beauty? I like those videos. It's pretty cool. Anyways. So how would that be different if you went to like some little village in China? Why might collected data different patterns for different cultural populations? So we're thinking ethnicity, you know, think about the different diseases that follow ethnic lines. Why do they follow only certain lines? Why aren't they going outside of that, right? What do populations, what do they do? Would you expect that pattern that you're seeing would be different if you collected 100 years ago instead today, right? So 100 years ago, what did the world look like? How was it different? Was it more global? Was it less global? Was there more likely that you were going to leave your area? More or less likely? More likely that you're going to be married and people and deal with people that are similar, or less likely? You know, how will this affect genetics? If you have the percentages of genes present for the total world, would you expect to change in 100 years? Let's say a significant change. Okay, so now we're going to look at the Human Genome Project. We shouldn't really even talk about the Human Genome Project, but okay, whatever. So report your findings on a specific gene. Does this look like this is too big? Go check something. Doesn't that look like they skipped more than a line? I hate it when it does that. Don't you hate that? It did. Don't do that. 0. How about changes now? Yep. Sometimes it will give you like extra spaces after you hit enter, even though I told it not to. Everywhere else looks fine, but that was big 6. Probably because of the bullet. Okay, anyways. So So we fix that. So you make sure you include, it's going to be 1 to 2 pages, try to be brief, but talk about, identify your disorder or disease, include the genetics of it, so what happens genetically, because that's what we care about. Describe it, including the symptoms, impact of the quality of life, so how can you cope with it, and at least one support group available to the person with the disorder or the caregivers to the person who has, and life expectancy. How common is this disorder? So statistics, and does it run in specific ethnic bloodlines or sexes, or if not, why, right? So maybe it's always in men, mostly men, maybe it's mostly in people who descended from Africa, maybe it's mostly in, Russian Orthodox Jews, maybe it seems to go everywhere, it's really omnipresent, like why? So talk about that stuff. I would say where would my break be? I said 3 paragraphs, right? So paragraph probably on the first, maybe impact for your second, statistics and that kind of stuff in your third. I switch it around. I would probably do statistics and I'll probably do my first on what the symptoms are, and the ability to spell disease is not there, is it? All my diseases and my symptoms are. Second, all my statistics and my ethnical, that was interesting, ethnic bloodlines, and then the third would be on how to cope with and all that stuff. And then make sure it's an APA paper. So that means you're going to have a title, heading, an introduction, a thesis, body paragraphs, at least 3, a conclusion, in-text citations. Your full references will be in the reference section, right? So it should help you out. Sometimes people give you lists. If you do something like that, if it's not a paper, do not expect full points. The formatting on this paper will be deducted from the points for this exercise and not for the format for the whole paper, for the whole lab, because this is the exercise, right? And this just says type your paper here, so I just gave you the second page to make it easier. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so then questions. What are the purpose of these exercises? So both of the exercises. And then what is the prognosis of genetic diseases in the future? Do you believe that microsurgery to fix chromosomal aberrations will someday prevent the diseases that are listed in the list of genetically mediated diseases in humans? So the prognosis of genetic diseases, talk about that. Also talk about microsurgery. You can talk about other options too. That's fine. Just make sure you hit those 2 in there. And then lab summary, at least 3 sentences, and then you will have a bunch of references because you looked up whatever your genetic disorder is. Generally, if you can find one that is less likely covered, that would probably be better because there won't be quite so much information on it, and I won't be looking for certain things that I'm aware of, right? Or if you do something really common like, say, Down syndrome, I probably am pretty aware of it and know what should be covered. In general, if you can research something that's really specific, it helps out. Just make sure that whatever you pick, there is enough information to research it and come up with your 2 pages. Shouldn't be too hard. It's only a 2-page paper, man. You can totally write like books on this stuff. As always, draft reviews, love to do them before noon on the due day. It's really good if you can get them to me like Saturday or Sunday, because sometimes it takes me, if I don't get them in the morning, it might take me a little bit longer to get them, or like I can have a life, but then I can get them to you before Monday and you have that whole day to tweak stuff. In general, it's easiest to have labs done by the end of Sunday for you, because then you can have Monday just to worry about that group project and anything weird that happens. Like if someone, I had a group one time where a student dropped out in week 7 and didn't tell her lab mates that she dropped, or me, and it wasn't official until after the class ended, so they thought she was going to do her work and didn't realize that she wasn't until like 6 p.m. on the due day. And you want to have the time to not be worrying about the lab at that point and be like, shoot, I have to get this section done for the brochure, so let's go research that and plunk it in, right? So you can still get all those points. Okay, hope this helps. Enjoy. Send me those drafts.